Friends, before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. This one is wild, so stay with me. Joe Rogan just sparked a firestorm online after commenting on a moment between Erika Kirk and Vice President J.D. Vance, a moment that has millions of people asking whether something much bigger is happening behind the scenes. Now, before anyone jumps to conclusions, let me be clear, this isn't about accusing anyone of wrongdoing. This is about perception, timing, and the way a single moment can change the entire conversation. Let's start at the beginning. Charlie Kirk was one of the fastest rising names in conservative politics. He built his movement from the ground up. He was young, influential, and respected by millions. And his wife, Erika Kirk, wasn't just standing in the background. She was his partner, his support system, and part of his public world. After Charlie's passing, many expected Erika to step back from everything, to disappear from the spotlight for a while. But that didn't happen. Instead, she stepped forward. She became the CEO and chair of Turning Point. She took over Charlie's podcast. She spoke at stadiums, appeared on major stages, and rapidly became one of the most visible figures in the conservative movement. Some people said, she's strong. Others said, something feels different. But nobody had a clear explanation until the Oxford event. At that event, Erika went on stage to introduce Vice President J.D. Vance. It was supposed to be a simple introduction, routine, predictable. But the moment she opened her mouth, the room shifted. She said, "No one will ever replace my husband." A powerful statement, emotional, respectful, expected. But then came the part that made the internet explode. In the very next breath, she compared J.D. Vance to Charlie. Not as a replacement, but as someone who reminded her of the qualities Charlie carried: leadership, conviction, presence. And then J.D. walked on stage. What happened next is what Joe Rogan reacted to: the hug. Not a normal political handshake. Not a polite side hug. A long, emotional, full embrace moment that looked intense, raw, and unfiltered. Within hours, body language channels on YouTube broke it down frame by frame. Clips went viral. Reaction videos flooded TikTok, Instagram, and X. And Joe Rogan on his podcast looked at the moment and said what millions were already thinking. Something about this is off. Now, again, this doesn't prove anything. It doesn't mean any conspiracy is real. But perception? Perception is powerful. And that perception is fueled by another piece of the story: J.D. Vance's relationship with his wife, Usha. For years, they've been known as a private, stable couple with kids and a quiet home life. But recently, J.D. has been making public comments that raised eyebrows. Comments about wanting his wife to convert, about cultural differences, about tensions at home. Supporters say it's being blown out of proportion. Critics say there's something changing behind the scenes. Then a photo of Usha went viral, a picture where she looked distant, uncomfortable, almost overshadowed by the moment happening on stage between Erika and J.D. Was it intentional? Coincidence? A random captured expression? Nobody knows. But the internet, being the internet, ran with it. And that's how we got here. Erika rising rapidly in influence. J.D.'s marriage suddenly under scrutiny. A moment on stage that looked emotional enough to spark millions of theories. And Joe Rogan, the biggest voice in podcasting, openly calling the situation suspicious. But here's the truth: none of this proves anything. No one knows what's happening in private lives. People grieve differently, rise differently, and interpret moments differently. Still, the combination of timing, optics, and emotion is why the story blew up. Some people online believe J.D. Vance could distance himself from Usha. Others think Erika's increasing visibility means she's preparing for a bigger political role. Some believe the two paths will eventually cross in the public arena in a very dramatic way. Is any of it true? We don't know. Not yet. But one thing is certain: this story is far from over. And in politics, perception often becomes reality. Not because it's true, but because millions of people believe it might be. So now I want to know, what do you think? Is this all coincidence? Just grief, timing, and public pressure? Or is something bigger quietly moving underneath the surface? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want part 2, where we break down the full body language analysis, the timeline of events, and Rogan's complete commentary, just let me know. Until next time, stay sharp and stay curious.
No one will ever replace my husband, no. But I do see some similarities of my husband in JD, and Vice President JD Vance. I do. And that's why I'm so blessed to be able to introduce him tonight, because he understands the fight that we're up against.
Wait, what? Your husband just passed away a few weeks ago, and you're already comparing another man to him? And not just any man, the Vice President of the United States. A married man. Standing in front of thousands of people, cameras everywhere, and a room full of political insiders. The moment didn't sound like raw grief. It didn't sound accidental. It sounded intentional, measured, almost rehearsed. And the internet noticed instantly. People started asking, why would she make that comparison? Why that man? And why did she look so comfortable saying it? Some commenters said she was simply praising leadership qualities. But others believed this was the first public hint that Erika might be stepping into a much bigger political role and maybe even positioning herself next to JD Vance for reasons that aren't clear yet. Honestly, at first, I also thought everyone was overreacting. That it was just a strange moment taken out of context. But then the next moment happened, and everything changed. After Erika made the comparison, JD Vance walked onto the stage. The crowd was cheering, music was blasting, and all eyes were on them. Now, under normal circumstances, you'd expect a polite greeting, a quick nod, a handshake, maybe a short, respectful side hug. But that's not what happened. What happened was a hug that instantly became the most analyzed 3 seconds on political TikTok. It wasn't stiff or formal. It wasn't distant. It looked warm, too warm for a brand new widow and a sitting vice president on a public stage. Erika reached up, not just to his shoulder, but higher, almost into the space near his neck. JD's hands didn't land on the usual safe zones either. Not the upper back, not the shoulder blade. Instead, the hug looked close. Close enough that millions of viewers immediately hit the replay button. Again, does this prove anything? No. But visuals create narratives, and narratives spread faster than facts. And the narrative that exploded online was simple. This didn't look like a routine greeting. It looked personal, comfortable, like two people who have talked before, maybe more than once, and definitely more than casually. Whether that's true or not, no one knows. But the public saw what it saw, and that one hug turned a political event into the biggest rumor storm of the year.
Several requests to decode this video with Erika Kirk and JD Vance. Let's look at JD Vance's side of the hug first. He gives a tight hug with a pat on the back. So some people often pat people on the back. That's just kind of how they manage a longer hug. And for some people, that patting on the back is what they do to comfort someone else. He also rests his hands after the hug for a second on her waist area, which can be a sign of affection and or romantic interest. It's the move to slide her hands up and grasp and cradle his head that is getting so much attention. This is a move that we women do when we are in a deep kiss, which is why it looks so very intimate. Erika then ends her hug by grasping his shoulders, which is a sign of affection and closeness. That said, grief can do really wonky things to humans, but this is wonky for sure. I'm Annie Sarnblad, and I teach microexpressions and all things
Friends, before we continue, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us bring you stories that keep you thinking. Now, this is where things took a turn nobody expected. Right after Erika made that strange comparison, just weeks after her husband's very public passing, people were already confused. And honestly, the way she said it didn't sound like grief. It sounded prepared. Like she had rehearsed that line long before stepping on that stage. And when the clip hit the internet, the questions started pouring in. Why that comparison? Why him? And why did she look so confident saying it on a stage packed with cameras, lights, and thousands of people? Some viewers tried to explain it away. She's just honoring two strong leaders. But others They thought this was the first sign that Erika was trying to position herself next to JD Vance, intentionally. At first, I thought maybe people were stretching. The internet loves theories. But then the next moment happened, and everything changed. JD Vance walked onto the stage. The audience cheered, the music rose, and he headed straight toward Erika. What everyone expected was a polite, professional greeting, a simple side hug, or a brief handshake. But that's not what happened. Instead, what the cameras caught was a full, close, body-to-body hug, the kind that lasts just a little too long. Erika's hand didn't stay on his shoulder. It slid up behind his neck, into his hair. Her other hand was on him too. And JD? His hands weren't on her back like you'd expect. They were on her hips. That moment spread across social media like wildfire. Body language experts jumped in immediately. One woman, Annie Sarnblad, analyzed the hug frame by frame. And according to her, the contact, the closeness, the hand placement, the length of the embrace, all suggested a level of familiarity that simply did not match the situation. Not for a married public official. Not for a woman who had just lost her husband. And then there was Erika's expression. As she held JD, she wasn't sad. She wasn't overwhelmed. She was smiling, a real, warm, comfortable smile. The kind that didn't look like grief. It looked personal. Now, I'm not here to judge anyone's grieving process. Everyone handles loss differently. But when you're in the public eye, when you hug the Vice President of the United States like that just weeks after tragedy, people are going to notice. And they noticed. The internet split into two camps instantly. Those who thought it was innocent, and those who believed this was the beginning of something much bigger. But while everyone was analyzing Erika and JD, there was someone else in that room who saw everything up close. Usha Vance, JD's wife. And one photograph from that event captured something no video could hide. A photographer snapped a moment of Usha hugging Erika. At first glance, it looked gentle, emotional, the kind of comforting hug you give someone going through a hard time. But when people zoomed in on Usha's face, the tone changed. Her expression wasn't just sadness. It wasn't just empathy. People saw something deeper, a mix of pain, confusion, and a kind of quiet fear. One person online described it perfectly. This is one of the most powerful photos I've seen. You can feel the hug, and you can see the pain in Usha Vance's eyes. And honestly, that photo told a story all by itself. It looked like a woman who was both comforting Erika and silently trying to understand what was really happening between her husband and this widow who seemed unusually close. And as more information surfaced later, people started saying Usha had every reason to be concerned. Because a TikTok creator decided to do some detective work. They went back through videos of Erika Kirk at other events, watching how she greeted other people, especially men. And what they found was the moment that changed the entire conversation. Every other hug Erika gave was distant and polite. Hands on shoulders. Space between bodies. Professional. Controlled. Appropriate. But the hug with JD Vance? It didn't match any of those. Not even close. And that difference, that one moment, is what started the theory that now has millions of people connecting dots that were once ignored.
Did y'all just see that? Y'all, let me show you this again. Watch his hand.
And then came the video that completely changed the tone of the conversation. Someone posted a clip of another man hugging Erika at a different event, and honestly, it was almost funny. The man leaned in politely, but he didn't even touch her back. His hands hovered awkwardly in the air, like he was afraid to make any physical contact at all. People in the comments were joking about how uncomfortable he looked. But here's the important part. That is exactly how a married Christian man is supposed to hug a widow. With distance. With respect. With boundaries. So, if that's the kind of hug Erika normally gives, small, careful, professional, then the question becomes impossible to ignore. Why was the JD Vance hug so different? Why did her hand slide into his hair? Why was she pressed fully against him? Why did he put his hands on her hips? Why did it last so long? The answer that people keep coming back to is simple. That hug wasn't about grief. It wasn't about comfort. It looked intentional. It looked familiar. It showed a kind of closeness that shouldn't exist, especially with JD's wife standing right there, watching. And when you play these videos side by side, the polite, distant hugs versus the intimate stage moment, it's hard to pretend nothing is happening. Even people who defended Erika at first started saying the same thing. Okay, that's not normal. But this story goes even deeper. Because after Charlie Kirk's passing, there was one person who stepped up for Erika in a way nobody expected. Usha Vance. She didn't just send a card. She didn't just write a message. She flew back with Erika on Air Force 2. She stayed by her side. She held her hand. She gave her comfort when the cameras weren't around. Erika even talked about this publicly. She thanked Usha. She praised her kindness and wisdom. She said Usha helped her survive some of the worst moments of her life. But then Erika used a word that stopped everyone cold. She said she confronted Usha Vance. Not spoke with. Not opened up to. Not leaned on. She said she confronted her. And suddenly, people began asking, what exactly did she confront Usha about? Why was there something to confront at all? And what was happening behind the scenes that made that conversation necessary? Because when you look at the timelines, the hugs, the expressions, and Erika's own words, the story stops looking simple. It starts looking complicated, emotional, personal. And whatever Erika confronted Usha about, it might be the missing piece that explains everything.
Confronted Usha Vance. I held her hand and I told her, honestly, I do not know how I'm going to get through this. She told me something. She said, you know when you're on an airplane with your kids and it's the last 15 minutes of the flight, things are crazy. Kids are not cooperating, toys are flying everywhere and everyone's screaming. You think to yourself, cannot wait for this flight to land. And it's 15 minutes before you land. She told me, you will get through these 15 minutes and the next 15 minutes. Usha, I don't think you realized it that those words were exactly what I needed.
But here's the part that stopped everyone cold. Why would Erika use the word confronted when talking about a woman who supported her, protected her, and quite literally held her during the darkest moment of her life? You don't confront someone who comforted you. You confront someone when there's tension, when there's something unsaid, when there's conflict under the surface. So the question became unavoidable. What really happened between Erika and Usha on that plane ride? What was said or revealed that Erika later described as a confrontation? Some people online tried to explain it away. They said when two people share trauma, it bonds them, sometimes in complicated ways. That maybe Erika and Usha formed a deep emotional connection because they lived through something horrible together. But trauma bonding does not explain what came next. It doesn't explain why Erika compared JD Vance to her late husband. It doesn't explain the hug scene around the internet. And it definitely does not explain why JD has recently started undermining and embarrassing Usha in public. Something shifted. Something changed. And Usha's face in that photo, the pain, the confusion, the fear, makes it clear that she knows it. And honestly, based on what JD has been saying recently, she should be worried. Because this is where the conspiracy theory stopped sounding like a joke and started sounding like a very real possibility. A TikTok comment went viral, and it said this: he's gonna divorce Usha for not being Christian, get with Erika, say it's what Charlie would have wanted, then they're gonna use the new ballroom for the wedding. People laughed at first, but then they looked at the timeline, and suddenly, it didn't seem funny anymore. Laura Trump, Donald Trump's own daughter-in-law, recently said that once Trump finishes his term, JD Vance will be the next president. She said he'll lead the country for 8 years, meaning the 2028 campaign is already being built in the background. And if you want to win 2028, you need the perfect political image. You need a wife the conservative base will champion. Someone strong. Someone polished. Someone deeply Christian. Someone who already commands the loyalty of millions. Someone like Erika Kirk. She is everything JD's current wife isn't, at least in the eyes of the MAGA base. She's white, Christian, fluent in conservative culture, and she's already proven she can lead the organization Charlie built. She is a widow of a right-wing icon. She is media-trained. She is admired. She checks every box. So the theory goes like this. JD finds a reason to divorce Usha. Maybe blaming her for refusing to convert. Maybe saying they grew apart. Maybe framing it as a spiritual disagreement. Then, after a respectful period, he marries Erika Kirk. They frame it as two wounded hearts finding comfort in one another. They say it's what Charlie would have wanted. And JD runs for president with Erika as the brand new, picture-perfect First Lady. Sounds dramatic, right? But then you look at what JD Vance has been doing right now to his own wife, and suddenly the theory doesn't feel so far-fetched. At a massive public event, with more than 10,000 people watching, JD talked openly about Usha's religion. "My wife did not grow up Christian," he said. "I hope eventually she is moved by the same thing that moved me in church." People couldn't believe he said it publicly. Not only did he downplay her Hindu background, he implied that her faith isn't good enough. He framed her religion as a flaw. And he said it in front of thousands of people with cameras rolling. That's not love. That's humiliation. And here's the part that made people suspicious. When JD married Usha, he was perfectly fine with her faith. They even had a Hindu priest at their wedding. Usha has said publicly that incorporating her religion into the ceremony meant everything to her. So, if JD respected her religion, then why is he attacking it now? The timing lines up with one thing, and one thing only. That viral moment with Erika Kirk. Some people even pointed out something called the Pauline privilege, a Catholic rule that allows a Catholic partner to dissolve a marriage if the other spouse wasn't baptized Christian. Meaning JD could end his marriage in the church and remarry someone else without breaking Catholic doctrine. Someone like Erika. I'm not saying this is definitely happening, but I am saying the pieces fit together almost too perfectly. And that's exactly why Joe Rogan, someone who usually avoids political soap opera drama, finally spoke up. On a recent episode of his podcast, Rogan said something that made millions of people freeze mid-scroll. Something is SUS, and they don't know what's going on exactly. And when Joe Rogan says something feels off, people listen.
According to the narrative. Now, let's be real clear. I don't necessarily think they know what's going on yet. There's a lot of weird shit going on with this.
That's all Rogan said. No names. No explanations. Just one sentence, and it was enough. Because everyone already knew what he was referring to. The hug. The behavior. The timing after Charlie's death. The way Erika and JD had suddenly become the center of a narrative that felt off. And when Joe Rogan calls something SUS, the whole internet pays attention. His podcast reaches hundreds of millions of people. When he raises an eyebrow, his audience goes into detective mode. They dig. They analyze. They ask the questions the mainstream networks avoid. Rogan knows that. And he used that influence right here. He was basically signaling to the world. Look closer. Something isn't adding up. And millions of people did exactly that. But Rogan didn't stop at questioning Erika's behavior. He went even further, and this is where the story turns dark. Rogan started questioning the official story surrounding Charlie Kirk's death. He talked about the young man who pulled the trigger, a 20-year-old whose motives still make no sense. And Rogan asked the questions investigators should have asked from the start. How did someone that young plan something so coordinated? How did he get that close? Why are there so many unexplained gaps? And the biggest question of all, who actually benefited from Charlie Kirk no longer being here? Because that's the question nobody wants to touch. Not politicians. Not networks. Not the people who were closest to Charlie. And yet, it's the most important one. Rogan didn't accuse anyone. He didn't point fingers. He just opened the door. And once he did, millions of people walked through it, connecting dots, building timelines, and noticing patterns that shouldn't exist. Because the truth is this, when someone with Charlie's influence is suddenly gone, when the people around him rise faster than anyone expected, when alliances shift overnight, and when one hug can change the entire political internet, people start asking questions. And Joe Rogan made sure those questions would never be buried.
said that he took it apart and then put it back together again. Shut the f up. Do you know how much time it would take to do that if you were highly skilled?
To disassemble a gun.
To disassemble a rifle so that you can get it in a backpack. And by the way, not gonna fit.
Not gonna fit in a backpack.
And then somehow or another reconnects it once he gets off the roof. What? This story is horseshit. Like none of these things make any sense to me.
Rogan pointed out that the official story has too many holes. The weapon was supposedly a World War I rifle with no serial number. The shooter allegedly took it apart, smuggled it in, put it back together, shot Charlie, and then escaped, only to be caught later under mysterious circumstances. None of that makes sense. And when you look at who benefited from Charlie's _________, one name keeps coming up. Erika Kirk. She went from being Charlie's wife to being the CEO of his entire organization. She went from being in the background to being the face of the conservative movement. She went from being unknown to being on stages with the Vice President of the United States. I'm not saying Erika had anything to do with Charlie's _______, but I am saying that she's benefited more than anyone else from what happened. She's more powerful, more famous, and more connected now than she ever was when Charlie was alive. And that makes people ask uncomfortable questions. When you combine the suspicious circumstances of Charlie's ______, with Erika's rapid rise, with that hug, with JD's treatment of Usha, with the 2028 presidential timeline, it all starts to look like pieces of a bigger plan. A plan that Joe Rogan and millions of others are now watching very closely.
So what do you think?
Is this all just grief and coincidence? Or is Erika Kirk playing a much bigger game than anyone wants to admit? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I want to hear what you think about all of this.